Hello and welcome, guys, wherever you are, wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening. If you're listening live on YouTube, thanks to our friends over at SHN Sports, we want to remind you to go ahead and hit subscribe to that button so you can get notified whenever we go live. This is the Throw-In ATX. It's Austin's original soccer talk program, Austin's original international soccer talk program.
Oh, we've been talking the beautiful game since day one, baby.
But I imagine today's focus is going to be on Austin FC, the breaking news that Austin FC has their first
international news
ever head coach.
Everybody's talking about it.
It made the headlines over at MajorLeagueSoccer.com. It made the headlines on ESPN. I think I even got a push alert about that.
And we're at Cover 3, just in case you were wondering.
That's the thing.
The beautiful Cover 3.
Downtown. Multiple locations that you can find Cover 3, but it's happy hour all day today. So if you can make it anytime between now and when they close, you get to take advantage of all the great specials that they have here today.
And I'll tell you what, if you don't know Cover 3, if you've not been to Cover 3, it's a sports bar, as you can see. The screens everywhere, and there's sports everywhere. But the food is so much better than a lot of sports bars. I'm not being rude to any other sports bars.
Oh, and
this is a cut above.
And he's not joking. I live on the chicken fried chicken. Trust me, I live within walking distance of a Cover 3.
Soft tacos.
Oh, soft tacos are pretty legit here. But right now, today, sliders are on sale, as well as cocktails. They have the $2 cocktails off.
Are they paying you?
No, they're not paying me. I'm just glad that we're here. This is one of my favorite places to be.
So here's the thing, guys. If you've been following the show, you know that we are on a bar storming tour all over the great city of Austin, Texas.
I thought you said you hated puns.
Not a pun. I mean, it's
bar storming.
It's the way you deliver the pun that I'm against.
Okay, fair enough.
So here's the thing: we are the Throw-In ATX. We're Austin's original international soccer program. We're going all over Austin, exploring the great bars, the great breweries, everything that the city has to offer. We are here, and we are trying to bring soccer to the masses to go out and experience it. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Throw-In ATX so you can see where we will be next. But for this episode, we are out at Cover 3. If you're watching us live on YouTube right now, there is still time. We're going to be here for the next hour. So we want you to come out and come listen to us live. That is how you can listen to the show, and you can come and ask your questions too. We are going to be following the comment section in this YouTube video, so if you want to go ahead and leave a comment for us, we'll be monitoring that. If you've got a question about Austin FC's new head coach and Joshua Wolf, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and leave a comment there or hit us up on Twitter. Again, we're at the Throw-In ATX. Justin, your social media?
Oh, at the Smash Simmons. And don't forget, you can find us on Instagram as well. Same exact handle, at the Throw-In ATX. So hit us up in the messenger, slide into those DMs, and let us know what you're thinking out there.
Don't be scared. My Twitter handle is at Soccer is a Sport. And Jonathan?
At Speed Green.
At Speed Green.
The only one I know.
There you go.
Let's get started.
Yeah.
We've gone through where we're at today. We're at Cover 3. We want to thank our gracious hosts once again. But right now, we need to talk about the breaking news that was today.
Yeah, it's huge.
We talked about it in the last show. It was a rumor back then. It is now official. Austin FC has their first ever head coach, and that is Joshua Wolf.
Well, first, let me give you guys big props because we were on this show last week over at Haymaker. Big thanks to Keith for him having us out there. But we mentioned it on the show last week that we thought this was a strong possibility, and lo and behold, it came true.
Now, for those of you that paid extra close attention to what Austin FC has been pushing out, you kind of had a little bit of a heads up on this. They announced that they were going to have one of their meet and greets with Austin FC chairman Anthony Precourt, as well as Andy Loughnane.
Yep.
And on that invite, they said, in particular, and club officials. Now, for the eagle-eyed viewer of that, I think that was a dead giveaway about what today's announcement was going to be. It hit the media outlets yesterday that there was going to be a big announcement today around lunchtime. Lo and behold, it was the announcement of the first ever head coach.
Well, let me throw it at you local boys. What do you think? I didn't know until you started telling me more about him last week, who he was. Obviously, now I know a lot more. What's your take?
Well, there's two sides to every story, right? And making a new hire in this case for the head coach is no different in that regard. Am I excited that we have a young head coach that has national team experience as a player, who has won MLS Cup, who has won the U.S. Open Cup as a player and a couple of conference championships. Yes, I'm very excited about that. But however, there are a lot of questions because of a lack of coaching CV, as you would say, or resume, as we would say over here.
So let's go through his
think?
resume a little bit. I'm very excited. I think he's a great choice. I think if you've been following the ownership group of this team, this is not an entirely unexpected pick. He's been in the ownership circle. He's been part of the Columbus Crew in his past. So let's go through a little bit. For those of you who don't know, who weren't maybe listening to the announcement today.
Not now, Mum.
For those of you who
I
don't.
told you not to call me at work, Mum.
Are you sure it's not a comment?
Oh, it might be. It might be someone calling
Try
in.
and get to you in the old way instead of texting?
So Joshua Wolf, born in Georgia, played college soccer with the South Carolina Gamecocks, where he scored 43 goals in 2 years.
Yeah, he also played with his future United States men's national team teammate in Clint Mathis as well. I love the team that he was on in that 2006 World Cup. Yeah,
so he's been a senior player for the Chicago Fire from 1998 to 2002, 84 appearances, 32 goals for Wolf back then. He also had two stints with the Kansas City Wizards from 2003 to 2006. Took a break in 06 to 08 to play for 1860 Munich, and then he returned back to Kansas City for 2 years, 08 to 2010, with a number of goals there. Finally, he finished his senior playing career over at DC United, 39 appearances, 5 goals. He's also had national team experience, and this is what gets me very excited because he's played at the top level here for the U.S. men's national team, where he's not only played for the development side of that, the U20, the U23, but as well the adult team as well in the U.S. men's national team, where he had 52 appearances and 9 goals. It includes 2 World Cups, as Justin mentioned, and a Gold Cup winner as well back in 2002 and 2005. He's got a pretty good playing CV, as you would say, as we've talked about. And he's also been an assistant coach from 2012 to 2013 over at DC United after his playing days over there. And most recently with Columbus Crew SC from 2013 to 2018, and with the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, he was Greg Berhalter, the current United States men's national team head coach assistant, and not just in Columbus, but also for the men's national team as well. So, Berhalter let us know that, just to paraphrase a few of his quotes, that, Austin FC made a great hire, a young coach that really looks to be on his way.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that really got my attention was not only, players have always got good records, but are they good coaches? The fact that he's been involved in the national men's team and he's also involved in CONCACAF as a scout as well really impresses me, because I want to hear what you're saying about his experience as a coach. But to me, just on the face of it, he seems to have all the credentials that we need, because he's got an eye on all the players in CONCACAF, first and foremost, and also he's got, obviously, the United States at his heart.
Well, not to paint too broad of a picture here, but the question I have, I guess, for the table is whether you guys think that hiring a former player is a good move for your head coach. Because that is a storied question here in soccer. Worldwide.
It's kind of funny because you can split that into two. It's like, do you want to hire a superstar player like a Zidane? Because most of the time you end up with Michael Jordan, where terrific player, best of all time, but couldn't coach. Yeah. Just didn't have the patience for it. Sometimes it's better to have a player that wasn't necessarily a huge star. And I know that Josh Wolf, while he was a big star and a big name for the United States men's national team, he wasn't, no offense to this guy over here, but he wasn't Landon Donovan,
Yeah. For those of you who can't read my shirt, it says Landon would have scored. One of my favorite shirts that I was able to pick up on my last trip to Portland, Oregon.
But I'm just saying that he's already put in the work. He's put in a lot of groundwork to try to understand how this will work, how to be successful at MLS, how to be successful on a higher scale than that. He might have more in the tank than we actually know. My only concern is, and it's kind of weird because it's a little different in this case, because technically speaking, it is an expansion team. However, everybody that's in place has already worked with MLS and has experience running an MLS franchise. But when it's the very first year of existence, there's a lot of pressure to be had because the expectations should be very high. And I think that I want to know what your take is here. Are you expecting a winning season from Josh Wolf right out of the gate? Because how much time is he going to get to prove himself? Because we know in this day and age, you don't get 3 years. You don't get 4 years. You don't even get 5 years anymore. You have 1, maybe 2, if you're good.
My take on that was what I picked up from the press conferences, which is the relationship that he has with Andy Precourt and Lohan in that they've worked together for the last 5 or 6 years, roughly. They know what they're getting. They got him for that reason. He had a lot of offers to go other places. He wanted to come to Austin. He's bringing his whole family to Austin. This is not something that is we're just going to get a coach to get us started. This is a long-term commitment with guys that know each other.
And not only do I think it's a long-term commitment because of that regard, I think it's been a long-term commitment. It's been a long-term relationship with Anthony Precourt and the ownership group over at, when he was the operator and chairman for Columbus Crew. I think that they have a history there. So it's someone that obviously he trusts.
And I understand where you guys are getting at. But guess what? At that time, he wasn't responsible for the wins or losses. He had a hand in it, but he ultimately, those W's and those L's didn't fall on his head. Now it's changed a little bit because now he's in charge of all of those aspects in order to guarantee W's going forward. Because ultimately, what I'm assuming, and I want to know what your guys' timetable is on this, but I expect within 5 years of when this team takes the pitch, they need to be competing for an MLS championship. They need to make the conference finals within year 3 or 4 to keep the excitement going, and they have to be playing for the title in year 5 or 6.
Well, and if that's the case, and this guy was employed today, he therefore has 5 years before that expectation is come. In other words, he started today, right?
But those are my expectations.
Yeah. And
but does everybody else have the patience to go that long?
It goes back to your original question, which is, does a player make a good coach? And we've seen classic examples of no. Kevin Keegan's one.
Keegan.
And the opposite of that is someone like Klinsmann. Or even, I would say, as an Englishman, Southgate and Neville, both in the men's and the women's game, are doing a brilliant job.
Or in some cases, the best coach ever was somebody like Sir Alex Ferguson, who doesn't necessarily have a distinguished playing career.
No, and the special one, the same thing.
Yeah, Mourinho, same deal.
It's always been a debate as to whether you need a
player's background.
Well, somebody who has got this sort of iconic feel about them that is a disciplinarian or a visionary when it comes to the game, or you need somebody who is popular, with the home fans and so on and so forth, but also talks the language of being a footballer and understanding them.
Well, Argentina had Maradona in that World Cup, and
that
it didn't work out at all.
No,
it didn't work out at all. But that's different.
I am absolutely, like I said, you get a Klinsmann, wins World Cups, fantastic coach, in my opinion.
I think so too.
But I don't. It's not always the case that a footballer can translate to a great coach.
I think the question you asked in particular is when this team takes the pitch, is the excitement going to be in place even if the team is not performing well?
Yeah.
And ultimately that's going to come down to not only the coach but the players and the entire staff that's around. Ultimately, I think that the level of excitement we've seen based on the number of season ticket membership deposits and the amount of social media buzz, the fact that you've got celebrities like Matthew McConaughey excited about Austin FC, I think there's going to be buzz and excitement around this team, even if they don't win right away. And that's hard for me to say because I know how fickle of a sports town Austin is.
I was going to say, how can you say
University
that?
Of Texas.
Like, how could you say that with a straight face when we've already seen what has happened with UT? A losing season and people stopped going, and they were giving away tickets at some point.
It's because this is so new. That's why I think I can say that.
My argument would be the MLS is going. I mean, this year alone, look at the start of this season. Look who's playing now in the MLS. From Abramovich to Rooney to everybody else. I mean, the stars that are coming now to the MLS, it's gone up 3 levels in the last year. So in 2 years' time, look at the level MLS will be then. So I think the expectations have got to be realistic that you're not going to walk into the MLS and start winning.
I feel like Atlanta United is the exception, not the rule.
Because we've seen Atlanta.
We've seen Atlanta. They've come in. You definitely don't want to land on the Minnesota United side of this whole debate.
Exactly.
You don't want to come in and embarrass yourself right away. But I think that the level of excitement here in Austin and for this club that's already been demonstrated when we're so far out still, I mean, honestly, 2021 is going to come up very fast, but we are
it's
not
still a
there
long way.
yet.
Yeah,
it's
we're
still
a
long way away.
That was one thing that also came out of the press conference. They're talking about next summer starting to look at a roster.
Yeah.
And starting to train the winter, spring after that.
The weird MLS schedule.
Yeah, but, I mean, we've got a whole year before they're going to start naming players, potentially. And what, again, I like about Wolf is the fact that he's got that roundness of understanding as a scout and an assistant coach, because that's what you do as an assistant coach. The pressure's not on you, I agree, so that could be a tough one. But he's also the kind of guy who's been looking at players and going, could we fill that slot with that guy?
Well,
is this guy coming to fruition? Is this guy? And I think that's huge.
I guess my question is not necessarily how he's going to handle those aspects, because clearly he's proven that he's more than capable of doing so. It's just those little aspects of becoming a head coach. Player conferences, having those conferences with people like us, those extra interviews, having to make time for things like that. When things aren't going well, can you continue to function under the pressure? Because for all intents and purposes, this is still a first-year franchise that we don't know anything about yet, because we have no clue what a roster is going to look like until another year down the road.
How deep are their pockets, do you think?
That's another good question that I'm glad that you bring up. Who do you need this team to sign for him to be successful? Because we've had this conversation many times. Do they go young and we try to kind of grow with those players and hope that they develop by year 5 into an MLS Cup competing team? Or do we go the LAFC route and get somebody like Carlos Vela, who is like the second best player in MLS, and we'll get into it a little later on in the show why that is the case? Or do we go and get Wayne Rooney and hopefully get somebody like that that's good?
Well, here's what I'm most excited about, guys, because right now we've got a head coach that, like you've said, is involved in the scouting community. I think we can honestly say that Austin FC's their first choice would probably have been to keep Greg Berhalter. And I think, Precourt's been on the record saying that, they tried in the past to try and invite Berhalter to come to Austin FC back before he took the U.S. men's national team head coaching role. The fact that Josh Wolf has the experience in scouting, I think means he's going to be even better at building a team, because it's not just about
That's
managing.
where I was going, yeah.
It's not just about managing this team. It's about building this team from scratch. And now that we are going to be this expansion franchise, that's an entirely different beast than just managing these big personalities that is involved.
And going back to Justin's point, exactly what you're saying, which is the expectations will be, let's say, your expectations, year 5, which gives him 3 years to develop this team, try to be a great coach. And I say, you started this by saying he doesn't have the experience. But make a break. He's building his own team. He's got the support of guys he knows. He's got plenty of experience, plenty of knowledge of the game. But it may be that he does a 3-year stint with Austin FC, and then they decide to bring in somebody else. But my bottom line is he's got the time, and he won't be judged immediately.
And if you want to judge this off of Atlanta United, if you want to judge this based off of the Atlanta United scale, I mean, Austin FC has already surpassed a lot of their benchmarks in terms of excitement leading up to where Atlanta United was 2 seasons
man.
out.
That's not on-field performance.
But here's what I'm saying.
That's not Tata Martino.
So
bring me Tata. Why didn't you get me Tata for the very first
head coach? So are you disappointed?
Coach?
Are you disappointed then in this head coach hire?
Disappointed? I couldn't be disappointed because I couldn't tell you a better candidate for the job, unfortunately. The only other guy that I would have given a serious, hard look at would have been Tab Ramos. But he might not want to leave the U20 job because if Berhalter fails, and right now it's showing that he might not be there for the end of this World Cup cycle, no matter how dedicated U.S. Soccer says they are to him, he's the next guy up. He should be the next guy up.
There's a lot to unpack there in that little conversation.
What you want me to be on the bandwagon? Look, I'm already wearing the shirt. I brought the hat, man. So I'm with it. I'm supporting the team. But do I have questions about the head coach? Yes, because we just don't have anything prior to judge him with besides his own player experience.
I think there's something to be said about we are all in this ship together. We're all about building this together. I think there's going to be even more club unity. You talk about the locker room unity and all of this. I mean, I can't speak for whatever players they're eventually going to sign, but the fact that they are building this from scratch and this is a first experience, I think there's community involvement there, a community-building force with that's going to help the locker room and the feel of this club.
I don't know, man. Maybe just because you're just looking at it maybe as a straight soccer aspect, but I see this as a conversation of all sports because this is something that's universal. Head coach, brand new, expansion team. Expectations should be low, but here they're very high. And we've already seen success so far because the USL side, the Austin Bold, they're doing pretty good right now in their first year.
Sure.
Right?
Fourth in the league.
So I think those expectations for MLS, considering that this staff already has experience, just like the USL side would have experience already in bringing this new franchise into MLS, should kind of be competing at that same level, but they're doing so with, a head coach that just doesn't have that prior experience. That's why I was like, Tata, that's why Atlanta was so successful. Yes, they had Martinez and they had some other great players that were young that they were able to mine from South America, but Tata, he has done a terrific job, just not with that club, but at the international level as well.
I think that when you have a guy who can come in, he knows the players because he's been a scout for all of this time. He's been involved with the U.S. men's national team. He has a firm grasp on what can be brought into a club in terms of player development and all of that. I think that he's going to be a really good fit because I see it not based off of any track record or history because we don't have that. You're right. But if you talk about the fits of a person in a club, I feel like this is the right kind of person.
And I also think that looking at those three on the stage today, their relationship, their building block for a new franchise is we're Austin, we are new, we've got experience in the game, we've got a young head coach who hasn't maybe, changed the world, and I think I'm glad they didn't go for a glamour pick, if you will, because that also has the sort of, I played with him when I was a player and all this sort of stuff. We're in Austin. This is one of the most exciting franchises. Come and be part of what this is going to be.
And that's what really spoke to me in the press conference, too. We talked about how excited he is to be here in Austin.
Whole family, it seems like.
It's a very Austin way of growing this team. It feels very organic.
Wait.
And by the way, he's not leaving the national side for another 4 months.
Yeah, no.
That's a long
he will
time.
remain as a U.S. men's national team assistant coach for the remainder of 2019.
He was happy to move to Austin. Who isn't happy to move in Austin? Let's be honest. Any head coach would be happy to be here unless they wanted to be in Europe, right?
I think that's true, but I don't think that's a reason to discredit.
Not many Sooners want to live here.
Well, I don't think they try to get here as fast as they can.
I don't think you can hold it against him though for saying that he's excited to be here in Austin, Texas.
No, that's regular PR talk. I expect that to come from a head coach.
Yeah,
exactly.
I just think it's a very Austin. It's a very unapologetically Austin thing to do. They're saying, you know what? Yeah, we're going to own the fact that we're new. We're going to own the fact that we haven't been here. We're going to own the fact that we're building this team from scratch.
And that's great. We can own that fact. But once the team starts losing, you're going to have to start looking.
Who's to say that they're going to start losing, though?
I'm not saying that they're going to start losing
your
right off the bat.
David A. Silva's going to be starting up front.
I mean, if David Silva's here with Chicharito, do we have a chance? Yes. But it doesn't seem like with our head coach hire, that's like the route that they're going to want to go.
I am going to bring up, and I know I'm probably going to get burned by this, but let's bring up for just a second Manchester United. Because I think that when you saw the appointment of Ole, a lot of people questioned that, and look at how well that turned out. You said, okay, here's a former player, no managerial experience.
Wait. You're just going to walk into the United conversation like this?
I'm just going to kind of...
Because I'm going to tear it apart right now.
Okay, well, I'm with him.
With Ole?
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer walked into a losing Manchester United in
no, my friend.
Falling apart.
Whoa, rewind that.
Rewind falling it. Apart. The special one was not so special.
Where's your argument?
They were in 6th place when they fired Mourinho.
Well, that's not the top of the league, is it?
That's not exactly where United would like to be.
So they weren't in Europe.
Where did they finish the season? Go ahead. Say it.
I don't want to.
That's right. Where did they finish?
I don't want to.
Okay, so they fired the special.
Hang on a minute.
Wait, no, did you not?
Okay.
6th place. They fired the special one. They finished in 6th place in the season. No, did you guys finish 6th or 7th?
We'll have to check the
I don't know if
they.
I don't know if they qualified for Europe. How is that successful for Manchester United?
It isn't, but they were falling apart, and they still are. The Pogba stuff.
And here's the thing. I can speak from experience as a Manchester United fan, and I know that this is a conversation that's supposed to be about Austin FC, so bear with me on this. As a Manchester United fan, it was not fun to be a fan under Mourinho.
Yes.
I had become disenfranchised with the club because of the head coach.
There you go.
I feel like
my dad's a United fan. I follow United very closely.
I feel like when they brought in Ole, the feel of the club changed. And I became excited to be a Manchester United fan
Me too.
again.
And he was such you talk about inexperienced coaches. Let's face it, he to take on the biggest team in the world, frankly.
According to Forbes, only 6, and we'll talk about that later on in the show.
All right, okay. But the most popular team, known team outside of football, even
according to the Forbes again, that's Real Madrid.
United did finish 6th.
All right.
In the 2018-2019 campaign.
All right, you come prepared.
Dude.
All right.
I come prepared. Look,
one of the biggest teams
look,
and one of the biggest sports
the
franchises
reason,
in the world.
The reason,
to give it to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was a huge leap of faith, and I think he's going to come through. But you've got to give him a season.
But
he hasn't had a season
But let's
yet.
say the whole reason why everybody was having such a bad time on the wrong side of Manchester, because we all know that Manchester is always blue.
Okay.
Is because they were
Take
losing.
the politics out of soccer.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Because they were losing. Nobody was having a good time because they were losing. Pogba didn't get to play where he wanted to play. Mourinho was trying to play his Mourinho-like games, and his young squad of Lingard and everybody else didn't understand what he was ultimately doing, was trying to take the brunt of all of the criticism on himself and let his players play, and they never understood that tactic from him.
The argument that I'm trying to make here is not that he was a miracle coach that turned the team around and they won the Premier League and isn't it great. It was the fact that they brought him on and it changed the club culture.
I agree.
And that is what you
needed
need.
to be changed.
And it needed to be changed, and I feel like that's what they're building here. They are not
Correct.
only just building a team that
and
is
that's
going to take
why
the
the Pogba
pitch.
thing is such an issue.
We've got,
they don't want.
We've got 2 years to build this club here at Austin FC, and this hire, I think, helps build the culture around the club.
I'm not disagreeing with the fact that you felt that it was better to stay and finish in the same exact place than where you.
I'm not even talking about the actual results. I'm talking about something that you can't measure with statistics. It's the feel.
But that's how only some fans. And while that might placate towards you, it might not placate towards the boss that makes those decisions.
But when you are not playing on the pitch for 2 years right now, you are building the club. Right now, they are not in on-the-field results mode. They are in building the club culture mode.
I will give.
They are in a building.
I will give us this. I'm excited that we are further ahead than Miami, whatever they want to call themselves, Inter Miami, whatever they decide, the Flamingos, whatever they decide to name themselves. Considering they're supposed to start play next year, as well as Nashville,
I think we're ahead of them.
We're way ahead.
Yeah.
So I feel good about that. I'm just saying that wins and losses will matter very quickly, and it's going to come faster than I think you think it might.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Because not every fan is just like, woo, soccer.
The experience that he brings in club building and in scouting, I think, is something that could have very easily been overlooked. They could have brought in...
Hey, he's involved in the American game at the highest level right now.
They could have brought in...
That's not saying much right now.
Ouch.
Did we qualify for the World Cup last time out?
No.
Anybody? I'm just asking. All right.
All right, guys. So here's the thing. We're going to continue this conversation. We're going to take a quick break. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, that is if you're listening on iTunes, on Google Play Podcasts, if you're listening to us on Spotify, all of these are options. You're going to hear a snippet from the press conference where Josh Wolf was announced. If you're listening to us or if you're watching on the YouTube live stream, we're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to The Throw-In ATX. Follow us on social media at The Throw-In ATX. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening.
Left to it. We're on a winning streak.
All right, guys, welcome back. We are live out at Cover 3. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks to our friends over at SHN Sports. We are the Throw-In ATX, and we want you to hit that like and subscribe button right now. Go ahead. While it is top of mind, we will wait for you. Go ahead and hit subscribe to SHN Sports. That is how you're going to get notified every single time they go live, including for our little show here at the Throw-In ATX. Again, we are out at Cover 3. They've got a number of specials that we're going to talk about here that they have for you to come out and enjoy.
Our man over here,
yeah.
Johnathan Green over here, already holding up the wing
The
trophy.
wings.
The wing
because
of the
wing
week.
of the week is the orange spice Thai glaze, which I think that is. That was the 2018 People's Champion
People's
for best
champion.
wing.
Is that what this is supposed to
wing.
be? This is supposed to be this is a wing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Oh!
exactly.
That's not just a wing.
What's funny is I come here a lot, and it's at the front here, and when you walk up to the hostess stand, it's looking at you. And
Oh,
it just
yeah.
looks very
It just-
unappetizing.
You can just kind of
But the wings are good.
Well, at first it looks like a heart, but then when you know it's wings, you see that
I
there's
thought
the
it looked like a
flapper,
dog- I thought
and then
it-
there's the
I
drumstick.
thought like dog poop when I first.
It's kind of like let me
Oh.
ask you this: if it's stuck together like this, does that constitute one wing, or is that
Yeah,
two separate
That
wings?
is a one wing right
Put it
there.
this way: if I was on a podium, or if I'd won it, just the whole idea of it's just not.
Yes,
very,
it's not a. It is not a.
We did it.
But to be the people's champion still means something, right?
I know. I don't know.
And the
It's
food's
not,
really
not pretty.
It's no Champions League trophy.
well.
No.
Look, the trophy.
If we get some of the real thing, though, I'll let you hold it up and.
look. Admittedly, the trophy's not that great, but the food here really is fantastic, though.
It is.
That's for sure.
No kidding.
You're going to want to try the wings. Slider of the month is that pork slider, that
Ooh,
BBQ
yes.
pork slider, which is on sale today because it is happy hour all day today.
$8.95.
So if you can't make it here within the next 30 minutes, don't worry. You can always come back a little bit later. And here comes our wonderful waitress.
This is Kate.
Kate, thank you again. Doing
She's quiet, is Kate.
doing a smash-up job as always.
She usually talks, but she's very quiet at the moment. Look,
Oh boy.
that's it. That's all we got. But thank you, Kate.
But yes,
Off she goes,
running
away.
We're doing this bar storming tour, as you like
Bar
to say.
storming
So
tour
again, thanks
across
to everybody,
Austin.
Celis and Haymaker, and to all those in advance to where we're going to visit here in the future.
Yeah, and if you want to know where we're going to be next, the easiest
We don't
way
know.
to we don't even know yet.
Let us know.
So the easiest way to find out is going to be to follow us on social media at the Throw-In ATX, and we encourage you to do so. You can also follow us on our personal pages as well. Justin?
Oh, at the Smash Simmons, both on Twitter and on Instagram.
For a second, I thought he forgot.
Well, no, because I was also thinking about the show, which you can
Yes.
also follow on Twitter and on Instagram at the Throw-In ATX.
My personal account on Twitter is going to be at Soccer is a Sport. On Instagram, it's at Zach Christo. And Johnathan?
I'm at speed green, left winger, so fast.
Yes.
Not easy.
Wow.
No, but it's a great livery color.
It is.
At Zachary Christodoulides was actually too long of a handle for me to take, so that's explains
I don't
my
think most
choices
people
there.
could spell Christodoulides without
Oh,
looking at
please,
it.
yeah, please, let's try.
Oh, I'm not. Are we going to play that game today?
No, we're not, but we are going to play a game potentially with a very spicy hot wing, so stay tuned for that.
Who volunteered for that one?
That one was you,
No,
my friend.
no,
You volunteered for that.
Oh, my God.
So we've segued from Austin FC. Let's continue at MLS.
Yeah. So, guys, it was a big weekend in Major League Soccer. They do these from time to time. It's called Rivalry Week.
Rivalry Week.
Week.
And until Austin FC comes on board again in 2021, one of the greatest rivalries that we have right now is called El Tráfico. And it is a great name. It is one created, I think, by the fans, which is why I love it even more. It is the rivalry between LAFC and LA Galaxy.
How funny
Will
was
Farrell
it?
wins every time. I don't know how there's any.
How funny was it that last year a lot of the MLS fans were just complaining because it was manufactured. It wasn't a real
But
rivalry.
El Tráfico is good, though, for LA.
It's a
isn't it?
great
I
name.
was gonna say that's as creative as us Americans usually
We're all on the
get.
405 together.
And
Yes.
here's what
Enjoy it.
the next one that's
Actually,
going
we
to come.
could have an El Tráfico because
We-
we're
Yes.
rivaling that.
We
Maybe we
could.
could have our own.
And there's
El
also going to
Tráfico
be
too.
like a live music derby between
Mopac and I-45.
Oh yeah.
We
and,
have a lot of rivals coming up for Austin FC, don't we?
and yeah, the one that comes to mind is going to be Nashville. I think there's going to be a music derby somewhere, and there has to be with Austin as the live
the
music
rival
capital of the
live-
world.
yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of great rivalries, but this past week you've had El Tráfico. You also had one of the great
Dueling
Pacific
banjo
North
match.
Okay, no,
love it.
Are you talking about the mountainous areas?
I'm talking about the Cascadia Cup match between Portland and Seattle. That took place over the weekend
But
as
how
well.
come
There was
nobody
some-
heard about it, though?
There was some ramifications there, and just because you're not a fan of Portland or Seattle doesn't mean that important stuff didn't happen.
no,
my
wrong
friend.
time
Wait,
zone.
wait,
I've
wait,
gone to bed
wait,
early
wait,
by
wait. It's not because I'm not a fan of Portland or Seattle. Look, Jordan Mortars, he's a great player when he's healthy, right? When he's healthy. But they don't have Zlatan, and they don't have Carlos Vela, and that's why more people probably looked at El Tráfico as the marquee matchup of this rivalry week. Is that what we're calling it now?
Rivalry week.
Man, your voice is great. Is there anything that
He
you
was,
can't do?
he was singing before the show. And
show him your Texan accent.
serenading. Oh, okay.
Y'all,
I want you to ask me about my shirt today. Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that in a
We'll
minute.
get
Let's
to the
talk
shirt.
about rivalry. I can't say that word.
rivalry week.
Oh, wow. That was almost harmonious. Okay. El
He's the one with the
Tráfico.
talent, man. I'm just trying to hang on.
El Tráfico. Where do you want to begin, Justin? Because do you want to talk about Zlatan?
Yeah. Let's talk about all the stuff.
You want to
that
talk
was-
about the kit that Zlatan was wearing?
Well, not just the kit, man. I want to talk about all the smack he was talking up to that week. People came out and said Carlos Vela was the best player in MLS. Now, granted, he's having a fantastic season, right?
Sure.
He's still in his prime,
Yeah.
28, 29, somewhere around there. And arguably, and let's just admit it, he should be playing somewhere in Europe still. But instead, he took the easy route and the big money
I don't
to come
like.
to MLS.
You are being very
That's interesting.
confrontational today.
Yeah, you are.
You are being the devil's advocate
But-
galore over there.
But he could have stuck it, like every great player that's from this side of the hemisphere, he could have stuck it out a couple of more years and made decent money.
I would argue
But I think
that,
it was too much for him.
I would argue that coming to Major League Soccer is the more difficult
And
route.
the time
if
is
anything.
now to come to Major League Soccer as a
Yeah.
28-year-old.
Is it really?
I think
If you're
so.
trying to prove that you're still one of the best players in the world,
I agree.
and
with
he's not going to get
Johnathan.
called up to the Mexican national team, so this is it. This is it for him.
I tell you what, we are at that transition point now. In
We're
MLS.
getting there.
We're getting there. It's
But-
the thing about it being a Rooney retirement campaign, and we've seen a lot of retiree players come here and bolster MLS teams, but that is changing. I really do think so.
I wouldn't say it's the retirement league as it was maybe even just as short as 5 seasons ago, where you had guys like Pirlo and Lampard who
Yeah.
thought it was going to be a cakewalk to come over here and not compete. MLS is a very aggressive league, lots of athleticism, very pacey. But as is the problem with our men's national team, the lack of fundamentals and first touch can be a little disastrous from time to time. That's just
I actually think the next big wave will be the South American wave.
it's already here.
It's already here, but I think and I say wave, what I mean is 27-year-old Argentinians and Peruvians and so on.
Oh, the ones that aren't in Europe, for sure.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, instead of going to Europe, which is really foreign for them, to come north and come to North America to play their game, I think is more likely.
And we've talked about this on this show
Many
a
times.
number of times before. If Major League Soccer can be a stepping stone for these younger players in their careers to move on, to be a tested pathway to Europe, to these next great adventures for them, I think that is where the U.S. succeeds, because they're going to not only raise the level of play in Major League Soccer,
Yeah, I agree.
but for the homegrown players as well, the opportunity to play against some of these best young and up-and-coming players, it's going to elevate the play of the U.S. men's national team as well.
I think it's a little bit like trickle-down economics. We're kind of hoping that will be the case, but right now all that MLS has proven is that it's improved MLS, not necessarily the men's national team, because, again, we didn't qualify for the World Cup. But all those other teams within CONCACAF from the smaller nations got stronger because their great players are playing in MLS, so they don't have to play in their homeland in these, less than stellar domestic leagues. And now they're getting a chance to play against better competition. That's helping them. But it hasn't necessarily helped, I feel, the homegrown player just yet. Will it get there? Hopefully it will.
I think it's way too early to tell. I mean, you talk about a 5-season turnaround and, Major League Soccer not being, quote-unquote, the retirement league anymore. I don't think anything's going to change on the U.S. men's national team front in that short of time
I
frame.
will admit that it's starting to move away from that retirement league monkey year. But when you still have guys like Zlatan doing what Zlatan did, because he came out, and not only did he perform well in that match, but prior to the match, he was telling people that Carlos Vela was not the best player like everybody anointed him to be. He said that he was still the man. And you need that drama. You need that superstar. You need that charisma. That's why the NBA is so popular right now. Is because you have those big personalities.
Now,
and that's what MLS needs to be successful on a grander scale when it comes to TV marketing and getting more interest from the fans.
Well, and what I'm going to argue here with you, Justin, is why does the big superstar need to be an older player? Why can't it be the up-and-coming superstar?
Yeah.
That's not coming in.
How you can't be an up and coming superstar and play in MLS. You should be. And where is he playing next year?
Chelsea.
Exactly. Thank you. You proved my
But
point.
what needs to happen in order for that to change? Because I
That
think
will never
all
change.
Major League you don't think that will ever change?
Unless MLS. Look, the only way that changes is that American money buys into foreign teams.
Okay.
Brings them over here to the United States and forms the Super League.
Okay. If I've learned nothing about living in the States and sports in the United States, money is king.
Yes.
It doesn't matter for the Dallas Cowboys, for whatever. Now, my point is, I've grown up in an era when, as a child, Sky Sports didn't exist. There was no money. And I worked for Sky Sports when they literally came to be. And we saw overnight the money that Rupert Murdoch put into soccer. And overnight, the game changed.
Yeah.
And the EPL suddenly went from being second to Italy, maybe Spain, Germany. We were probably on an equal
par.
footing with, but the English Premier League was good. But no, in the days of Shearer and so on and so forth.
No, your best players played over in Italy at that time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Gascoigne, so on and so forth. But
Thank you. Love Gaza.
got loving like
All right, guys, come on.
I love
It's not
Gaza.
my fault you weren't born yet, man.
Where's the point?
No,
what are we getting to?
My point is that the explosion of money in the Premier League is what made the Premier League what it is and why the international players then came. We had teams from Chelsea that had no English players in them.
Exactly.
And I think the MLS will, once the money is there, suddenly start attracting not older players, but young superstars who, and the transfer fees will go up. We will see the MLS, once there's big money involved, start getting players from all over the world, and America does have that kind of capacity for doing that.
It does, but don't you think it's going to kill the world game? Because it's like we're almost there. They want to form that Super League. It's going to happen.
I don't think as it's done in our case, in England's case, it's made England invest better into their youth and made the national side capable of playing alongside Harry Kane and all these guys.
But what happens to
world-class players?
But what happens to the Premier League and all the other leagues when the top six decide to leave and form their own Super League with Juventus, Inter,
That's an
AC.
argument that's gone on for years and it's never happened.
But it's much closer to happening now because that big money is available from these owners and they're looking to protect their investments. You've already seen Man City and what they have done. They don't just invest in Man City. They invest in New York FC. They also have the team in Melbourne. They are a global entity. And you see the same thing happening in Barcelona. We have a Barcelona academy just right here in our
Austin.
backyard.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure that Real Madrid is going to follow suit at some point.
Sure.
And so will Chelsea, and so will and so on and so on. So I'm thinking that within our lifetime, including yours,
as long as Arsenal don't do it, that's
Arsenal might not be invited at that point. That's the sad part, right?
I'm not inviting them.
Newcastle might not get the call either. But at some point, the game might deteriorate into just a Super League where we have no American players.
So connecting that back then to Major League Soccer, you're saying that the only way that Major League Soccer wins and becomes a dominant power is if the Super League forms, or
if they are able to get a team here. It'd probably be placed in New York or in LA, but if it was part of like the Super League roster rotations where they played only once a week, that would be a long conversation to have. But it is doable because of the way that new air travel and stuff that wasn't done before, nutrition, medicine and diets, things that weren't available to other players at that time, now available now, make it a possibility.
The fact that there are 5 NFL games played in England now, currently in the season, has not killed the NFL, and I don't believe that.
But that's because there's no other major professional American football-style league in existence that can compete within the NFL. It can't even happen in its own country.
I mean, I hear you. It's an interesting argument.
But we will have a team in London at some point because Wembley, the new Wembley, has already been built in order, or the new Tottenham Stadium, right?
I can't help myself. It's
okay.
It's like a Pavlov's dog reaction.
I know the magic.
Wembley.
I know the magic of the FA Cup still resonates with you.
I just don't see the need for this Super League to make Major League Soccer to take it to the next level.
Yeah,
I don't think
and
it
I
needs
also
to
think that the
exist.
powers that be, like the Murdochs of this world, will not let it happen because they're making money. FIFA and the major
just
TV
think about,
companies.
Let's
say
think about
this.
how much Major League Soccer has grown over the past 5-10 years.
Yeah, but it's been like
It's good for ESPN. It's good for Fox.
Yeah, but it's like my mom playing the penny slots.
Did
in
she play?
Vegas.
What position did she play?
What, my mom?
Yeah.
Oh, she doesn't play soccer. I'm saying
okay,
she was
sorry.
out gambling and she was playing on the slot machine. She's probably just playing the quarter, just one at a time, that one line, very modest gambles, just hoping to make or break even. I'm saying if you want to grow, you have to have big money. You got to place the max bet, right? And right now, the problem that's hampering MLS is that there is a serious salary cap. It doesn't allow any of the big-time owners that want to invest big money into their squad to do so.
But look
and
at-
that's because of the way that MLS as an entity is set up. And eventually, that seems like it's going to have to change.
But look at the path that we're on right now. If we become a league that's not just buying these retirement players, but rather exporting players overseas, that's where the big money comes into play. I think that's how, if we start to be a pathway, the stepping stone for these young South American or even, hopefully, homegrown players, if we are a stepping stone for them to go on to bigger and better things,
And you know
the
what?
transfer fees are what's going to...
And I'll tell you what.
What?
Look at the women's game. The American women are playing all over the world now.
Yes, but that's because what was arguably the best league in women's soccer was here. And it's no longer going to be here anymore now that other clubs have invested big money into female soccer.
I feel like he wants to have this both ways a little
He's not
bit.
gonna say. He just wants an argument today.
No, and I'm telling you, the reason why MLS wouldn't be successful as a feeder route is because you already have other leagues that have been doing it longer and that do it better. Just look at Ajax and what they were able to do with their young squad. How many of those guys got exported to the big clubs? You saying that you want to be a feeder to Ajax? Because they don't need us. They have their own system.
You know what?
But here's the thing.
You're a Debbie bloody Downer. And the trouble with you
just saying
is that the
the truth. I
MLS
speak
is
the
really
truth.
good. It's coming into its own.
I don't dislike the MLS
America
for what
loves
it is.
soccer. They're the world champions in the women's game. They've had a crap time in the men's game, but the talent is here. Pulisic is a good example
But
of that.
he didn't come from the MLS Academy.
And so what? That's going to take time.
And here's the
You're a
thing, just
teenager
because
when it
it's-
comes to soccer.
Just because it's not the case now doesn't mean it's never going to be the
Correct.
case in the future. And I
Do
feel
you
like
not
you're-
remember Freddie
you're
Adu?
not
Do I have to say his
looking-
name?
You're a bloody Debbie Downer.
You're not looking long term. You're looking at what can happen here in the short term.
How am I not looking long term? I was talking about the Super League and the possibilities of having one of those teams in America. That is long term, my friend.
I just don't think that you see Major League Soccer. You don't see the growth potential that Major League Soccer
What
has.
is the growth potential, Zach?
What is not the growth potential? Look
Yeah.
at what we've been able to do over the last decade.
biggest TV market in the world, more money than any other country in the world.
That's all things that America has.
More
yes.
youth programs in high schools in both men and female. New franchises like Austin, which dedicate themselves not just to the main team, but also have youth teams all the way down to the teenagers and even under 10s.
That's all great.
The explosion of soccer in this country is huge.
That's
right
all
now.
great. And I'm not saying that I'm against any of that. Don't misconstrue my words. I'm happy that all that
You're a bloody
infrastructure-
Debbie Downer.
I'm very happy that all that other stuff constitutes to what's going to happen next. Okay, my friend?
Okay.
All right, Mike.
But you don't see the league growing or becoming a superpower
Well, the problem
at
with
any point in the future?
a superpower? What constitutes a superpower? Because are you saying that this an
Don't
MLS
get,
side?
don't get hung up on words.
USA winning
Wait,
the World Cup.
wait. How am I supposed to get hung up on words if you say superpower?
What do you think
A
the growth
superpower
of
is
this
Real
league
Madrid.
is going to do? Where do you see this league in 10 years?
It's not going to be any different than where it is right now.
Really?
Unless
Really? Look at the
No.
growth that we've had, Justin. Look at the path, the
Don't agree with
trajectory
that.
that
no.
we're on.
You keep on saying growth, but you're not saying anything else besides growth. Where are the numbers? What are you measuring this growth from? That's the question I'm asking you, and I'm not getting an answer on that end. What I'm saying is that until MLS gets rid of its salary cap, where it can start paying for more expensive players to raise the level of play, only then will it be seriously considered as a superpower in world soccer. But right now, you have the Everside, you have the Belgian league, and you have every other European league that does it better, that has done it longer, that has an academy, and that takes them in when they're 8 years old and teaches them the game properly. We do not have that here. So until the U.S. soccer changes its structure and we change how players are allowed to go through academies and whether to choose a traditional schooling route or choose a professional route, we're going to be behind. That's straight up.
I agree with you there. There's a lot there, especially in the conversation with pay to play. It's one we've had on the show many times.
Frankly, we've just summed up what we were talking about, which is the glamour and the sort of what we see on a Saturday night, which is enjoyable and it's growing and it's exploding. You're talking about the grassroots, and having been somebody who's grown up in England and watched how that was done wrong for so long.
Exactly.
And how it could have ruined our game.
Yes, it could have.
And how we didn't have any English players in the Premier League for a long time, effectively.
I'm afraid that's going to ruin the American game to get to a superpower point, and that we have to be happy with what we have, because right now I wanted to overtake baseball because I'm not a huge fan of baseball.
Me neither.
And I think it's definitely a possibility that it can nudge itself into that big four.
Yeah, I agree.
But it does need superstars like Zlatan, who had a hat trick against Carlos Vela and LAFC in that El Tráfico. And it's going to take players like that to continue to come over. And would it help if we could get a player like Ronaldo and his caliber to come over? Hell yeah, it would.
Neymar's looking for a job.
And Neymar's always looking for a job, apparently, nowadays.
Well, we want to talk about him. But anyway.
Yeah, I think we're going to get there. And I see the growth in this league over the last 5 years and 10 years as something that you need to look at on the grand scale, right? You got to see where this league is going and not be bogged down in where we've been or where we go.
Wait. Hold that thought, because I just remembered something. He's been born into a world where soccer has existed as a professional entity in America forever. You have never once seen it crumble.
All right, well, I was about to say, I was here in the 70s.
Thank you.
When Beckenbauer and Pele and everybody came here, and it was all going to be great. But that was way the other way.
Yeah.
That was so top-ended.
But they had the most money.
You know, I mean, Rodney Marsh. I mean, really, these were the
we had world-class players here in America.
But he had two teams. I mean, you know, it was kind of ridiculous. It was so one-sided. And there was
it was like La Liga?
No, but there was nothing underneath it. There was
exactly.
nothing underneath it.
I agree. I agree with that.
And but that was a catalyst to get the sport of soccer into high schools. Get girls playing it, get boys playing it, and not play baseball and not play American football.
Yeah.
And so that's happened in my lifetime, and I think that this MLS is a much different sort of prospect to what was in the 70s.
Oh, you mean these fellas right here?
Oh, the Cosmos! Come on!
This is a classic
team,
baby.
Man.
This is a classic team.
Why didn't you wear that?
Because it's today's Austin's FC's
What
day.
number is that?
There's no
number.
Look,
it's an Umbro shirt too. Yes.
This is the Umbro collection redone. I love football kits.
See, I thought I was really kicking it with that, but you might have trumped me there.
I think you're right, Justin.
Can't use that word anymore.
I think that there is an age difference.
But it's
here.
a good discussion, though.
No,
man.
I think it's a great discussion. It's one that I think we're going to continue to have on
you're
this show.
You're a teenager, right?
I'm not a teenager.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a baby. Get out of here. I can drink this beer.
You can stay out. You can stay out past 10. He's all right.
Trying to get no, I definitely think that there is something to be said for the fact that I have not experienced a United States really without a professional soccer league.
Yeah.
And
and
I've
that's
never
good.
seen
That's
the
great,
downfall
though.
of a
And by
league.
the way, the glass is half full.
But here's the thing, and this is what I'm going to argue to counter your point. There is a whole generation of me's out there.
That's true.
And this is now the expectation.
And the future of the sport is
the future of the sport is with people my age. And you look at what Major League Soccer wants in terms of its target demographic. We can get into the numbers and the stats on that. We don't need to bore you. It's people like me. It's the young millennials, and I think that this is my age group. Not to be too overspoken here, is the one that's going to grow this game to the next level, and doing it the right way, the way that we've talked about in this last segment, is the way that it's going to have to be.
You're going to need more Zlatan. And some Chicharito to sprinkle in.
I don't think you're going to need to do it as a retirement league. I think it's something that's been different in U.S. soccer here than what we've seen in the past. You're not going to grow it in the same ways that they tried to.
I don't think it's that hard to produce 10 more Pulisic. I really don't.
It's not hard to produce, but it's not thanks to the U.S. system.
All right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back. We're going to have this conversation. It's definitely one that's going to recur on this show. We want to know what you're thinking. Leave a comment below. Like and subscribe to SHN Sports. You'll get a notification every time we go live. We want to know what you're thinking. Do you agree with Justin on this? Is Major League Soccer not going to become
As
a
you
dominant
should.
superpower? You're wrong. Or do you agree with me and Johnathan? Is it because I am just so very young?
Or is it because I'm so very old?
We don't know. We want you to leave your
I
comment,
don't
though,
know.
at the Throw-In ATX on Twitter. You can follow us there. You can send us a direct message. Slide into our DMs, as people in my generation
The millennials
would
say. That's where I got the phrasing from, man. I was speaking your
Hang on,
language.
we were the DM. We were what?
DMs mean different things back then.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Possibly. We'll have to have this discussion.
We're
here
going to
in a bit.
have this
When am I
discussion
going to
during
talk
the
about my
break.
special shirt?
We're going to talk about
After the
that
break.
coming up after the break. You're listening and watching the Throw-In on SHN Sports. Follow us at the Throw-In ATX. All right, welcome back.
Wembley!
Oh, wait.
I got it. I thought I got the. I had
You
it
were
down
there.
this time. I felt like I was there. Felt like 1981 all over again. Let's go Ipswich Town.
All right, welcome back to the Throw-In ATX, Austin's
team? I got the
original
right team, right?
He did get it.
international
Ipswich.
soccer talk program.
team.
We are broadcasting live today from Cover 3, the downtown location.
Good place.
It is a great place.
And we've got
They've been a
soccer on the
great home.
TVs too.
On the telly?
Yep, on the telly.
It's a sports bar, but it's so much more than that. We want to thank them. They've been a gracious host here for us here in our third show. Again, if you missed any of our first two episodes, originally we were out at Celis Brewery.
Yep.
That was for the Women's World Cup final. The last episode last week, we were out at Haymaker. Thanks again to Keith. This week, we were out at Cover 3. If you want to know where we're going to be next, please follow at the Throw-In ATX. I cannot say that enough.
Use that phone.
Because we don't even know where we're going to be
And
next.
if we're here next week, it's because we had a really good time.
Yeah, it's because we never left.
We never left.
Speaking of that, we're going to get back into this conversation a little bit because, we talked about in the last segment how Major League Soccer is stinted a little bit, their growth, by the salary cap rule. We talked a little bit about how the different rules for money in Major League Soccer with targeted allocation money, general allocation money, the designated player rule, all of that is, according to Justin, a stunt on the growth of Major League Soccer.
I like the stinted word, though.
The stinted?
Really
Stunted.
using those SAT words right there.
I like it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. In a perfect world, you can talk about... Stomped it. And in Europe, you can talk about how, they don't have the salary cap there. What is that situation like? And is it really that much better than what Major League Soccer is offering?
I think it makes it way more exciting because we were talking about international transfer talk during the break, and we've been needing to get to this all show, right? But Neymar, where is he going, and how, if he does move, how does it work? Because right now he's valued at what from Barca, 200 million or something like that, American?
I know, and they put that price on him because they thought that nobody would take him up on it.
Oh, of course not. But he's been He's had a horrible time in France.
But don't you think it's out of control? I mean, Neymar's good, but really, 200 million
He's supposed
euros?
Is he still just the third best player in the world, or has he fallen below the third best rank? Because right now, I still think for that type of money, Ronaldo or Messi is still worth more. But Neymar was supposed to overtake them at some point during his rise in his prime. And right now, he's, 27?
Yeah.
So he's just about towards the end of his prime. And this is his last big money contract. Is he still worth that money, even with the injuries?
Let's explain where it is right now.
Okay.
So
still stuck at PSG.
He's stuck at PSG, which isn't a bad place to be stuck.
It's a word, stuck.
Stuck.
One way to describe that situation.
That's what I also I find the whole thing right now, this preseason, Gareth Bale stuck at Real Madrid. I mean, really?
Who gets stuck at Real Madrid? It's no McNamara now.
They bought him for an international fee of, no Welshman has ever been bought there. He could have bought Wales.
Records there.
He could own Wales, I'm sure, Gareth Bale. But
Giggsy was good.
Well, yeah, actually,
just a little bit.
Yeah. But has it not got out of hand? I mean, they're talking about, effectively, what we're talking about is Paris Saint-Germain own Neymar, and they're saying, Barcelona's saying, we want him back.
Let me tell you why it isn't out of hand. You know why? Because here in America, we have something called Major League Baseball, where I feel that it's wait. Hear me out. Yes, exactly.
Everyone's falling asleep.
Wait.
I'm
No,
sorry.
exactly. I think it's a boring game, and I think that they pay too much money for these players that specialize in most non-athletic feats possible to be a professional besides being a pro golfer, right?
Well, chewing gum's pretty impressive.
But if you get
and
Bryce
spitting.
Harper and they're spending $500 million on him over his duration of his contract, then no, I don't think that World Soccer's out of step. That's just the going rate for athletes right now. You look at the NBA and their max contracts where you have players earning over $100 million over the span of 5 years. No, it's not that much. And we always knew that soccer players earn the most money because there's more teams out there available to throw out that amount of money at them.
But let's just don't you think the tail's wagging the dog at this point? We've got Pogba at Manchester United, who doesn't want to be there, but Barcelona would like him.
Oh, so would Juve. They want him back.
And so would probably Real, at a guess. You've got Neymar, who's at Paris Saint-Germain. Barcelona want him back. You've got Gareth Bale, who's at Real Madrid, and probably neither wants to be there.
Does United want him?
Stuck. I mean...
Would you want Gareth Bale as United
but they're
fan?
talking about him going to China.
Oh, there's no way he's going to China. He's still too good at the top of his game. And
they don't want
money. The money's there, though.
But nobody's
But
going to
here's the thing. He's refusing to leave.
He's refusing to leave.
I
know.
That's
Zidane's
what I
to
mean
leave.
by the tail wagging the dog. I mean, you've got a striker who, let's face it, for the last 10 years has been brilliant for Real Madrid.
Now, he makes a good point because today it did come out that the agent for Gareth Bale did say that his client, Gareth Bale, would not take a loan opportunity to leave Real Madrid. He wants to be released or transferred.
Correct.
No loan.
Yeah.
And no, on loan to be bought later. He needs to leave now. But the issue with Bale, because he earns so much money, is that he's injury prone. So it's like, who's going to want to take that risk on a guy who has bad hamstrings, bad calves, that can't show up in every game during what has now become a more strenuous competition? Because you look at the Premier League, you're not just thinking about your league games, you're thinking about those FA Cup games, and you're also thinking more importantly about Champions League games. I'm sorry you don't know what United's going to feel about that this year. Or possibly your Europa League games. I think that's more of United's thing this year. So, there's so much stress on the body. Can he compete at that high level? And the same question goes for Neymar. Again, another guy that has some speculative injury history in his background. Are they worth the money? But people seem to think they do because you have seen the brilliance that they have performed. Gareth Bale, he was out of competition basically almost the whole year. But when he was in Champions League play, he was phenomenal.
I know, and it's a tough one because you kind of ask yourself the question that what Real Madrid and what Barcelona are trying to do, and I use those two examples. There's plenty of other teams in play, but those guys are looking for the perfect team, and I wonder sometimes if they're they're looking at the perfect midfield. And it's like, okay, guys, but do you really need that?
That's a tough
I think there's something to be said about living within your means, and I think that goes not only for these players but for these clubs as well.
Well, Barcelona are the perfect example of that. They're looking to get Neymar back. The price on his head is 200 million. So what they're saying is, we spent a lot over the summer. We'll give you 90 million, and here's Dembele. Here's other players.
Dembele,
here's Dembele.
Coutinho.
Yeah, but what does that do to the squad? What does that do to the dressing room for these superstars that are like, you're not worth really that much to us because we want one guy.
And it's something that I think was brought up in our conversation with what Austin FC is trying to do too. Like, that is a universal thing that all clubs in the world are trying to deal with. In Major League Soccer, you've got to deal with the salary cap. In Europe, you don't. And it's all about living within your means. And I feel like a lot of these clubs have just kind of, played fast and loose with the large amounts of money that they have in their budgets. And it's not for the betterment of the game. I think overall you look at what's going on over there as something that is being a detriment to soccer.
If my team won the Champions League and spent the most money to do so, I think it's a success. Because they had to outspend everybody else. Kind of like Lance Armstrong in the Tour de France. Everybody had to dope in order to win.
Are you playing soccer at that point, or are you playing, let's see who can spend the most money?
Yeah, you could argue that whoever wins the Galactica. I mean, it really is one of those
But it doesn't always work out that way because we've already seen Leicester City pull off the miracle. You just have to have
And Burnley are about to.
I don't know about Burnley. They have a really good coach, though, and I do like him. And
an English team, which is rare.
A predominantly English team, but Leicester, what they were able to do when they won, they had premium talent on the cheap because they scouted well.
Yeah.
And they were still able to purchase players that they needed to fit those holes that they felt that needed to be filled.
And you go back to Man United for a second.
Yeah.
Remember what actually all of that you just said was what Ferguson did right at the start with Beckham, with Nevilles, with all of those young academy players. Everybody thinks that Man United came out of nowhere, but they didn't. They actually did it right. They scouted well. They got players young. They got Beckham, and that sort of they weren't the Busby Babes, but they weren't far off of the new generation.
And they definitely came alive at the perfect time because that's just exactly when the English game was starting to inherit all the TV rights with the Premier League money, and more players did want to come over, and they were able to attract those big-name signings.
Johnathan, I'm going to say 3 words right now, and I want to get your take on them. Financial fair play. Where do you come down on these rules? For these clubs, saying that basically you've not turned a profit in a very long time. It's time that you actually take this into consideration and take your role as an organization seriously. Do you think that it's something that needs to be implemented on a harsher scale, or does it not matter? Do you think that these clubs should get away with spending all of this money and potentially going bankrupt because of it?
It's a good question, isn't it? I'm torn, actually, to be honest. To answer your question, which isn't really answering it, I'm torn because what
happened to Wimbledon, right?
But greed versus growth versus success. I mean,
and I think it circles back to the MLS conversation as well, because the reason that we have the salary caps in place is because we didn't want these teams, or even on a broader scale, this league to fold.
The best example I can give you is that Chelsea became our version of Real Madrid, if you like. I say ours, an English version where there wasn't an English player in sight, and they just bought everything they could. Mourinho was there. Abramovich said, "Let's do it."
Yeah, he spent all the oil money.
But then it just imploded because they fought amongst each other. They didn't play well together. It happened with Mourinho at Man United to a certain extent, but perhaps not with the same level of money involved. I really do think there is a cause and effect to how much money. You can't just keep throwing money at it and expecting it to come good.
But you want to talk about MLS, let's look at it like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? They win in phases, okay? Hey, it's easier to relate things in pop culture to people that don't normally watch soccer. You have to remember, not everybody watches soccer, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You're the millennial here. I thought you were all excited about the Black Widow movie.
I'm all in on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'd love to hear how you connect it to
so
soccer.
MLS, exactly what you said. Hey, we don't want to be like the NASL. We don't want to go belly up within our first 5 years, so everybody has to have a salary cap. We have to make sure that the league is able to sustain itself before it could become anything better than the entity that it currently is. So they have been able to do that. The second phase, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was to add expansion, right? Yeah. So they started expanding from their original teams like Columbus, like the Wiz, right? And they started expanding. Then the third phase, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they started having teams.
Oh, he's standing up, ladies and gentlemen.
I know.
Started having teams move around, right? So you had San Jose.
Not very big, is he?
Go to Houston. No, I'm about as tall as Alan Shearer.
He's not that much taller standing than he was.
I know, right? No,
that's where I was going.
No. Shearer and I are about the same size. I'm about as tall as Messi. So I mean, there's that. So don't judge my graces on my size.
Connect it back to your point.
So at some point, the Marvel Cinematic Universe now knew that after forming its super team with the Avengers, that it needed to take risk, right, and really let the creativity flow. So now that we're starting to see a more diverse crew, more ideas that you wouldn't have seen put in a big budget movie because it's a risk. It's a risk just like in football. You can shake your head all you want, but you know I'm right.
What was the middle bit again?
It's a risk now, right? So now we're starting to see movies with leads that are not traditional.
Leads?
Not that leads.
Oh,
but the lead. But like we have Black Panther, right? And now we're going to have our
Who's he play for?
Well, I believe that he used to play with Eusebio at one point in Portugal.
Gotcha.
I think it's the same guy, but he wore a mask.
Okay, fair enough.
You know, it makes sense, right? Okay, but see, you're seeing teams now in this next phase, like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're willing to take chances that they wouldn't have taken before because there's big money on the line, and now they have that money saved up to where they can usually utilize it and spend it in non-traditional ways where they can see if it's a big risk, go for broke. And that's what MLS needs to do. They need to get to that last phase where Marvel is right now and get to the point where they open up that salary cap and say, hey, go ahead and take a risk with that money. We are a stable entity now. We know we're not going to go under because we lose out a few players and we swing and we miss big. Because we've already saw it with Pirlo. We've already saw it with David Villa. If just because it didn't work out necessarily at first doesn't mean that those teams took a huge hit.
I think he's standing again. I'm not sure.
I'm kind of like half standing, half sitting.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you, Justin, is I'm not sure that Major League Soccer is as secure in itself as you think it is. It wasn't that long ago that Chivas USA folded.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you got LAFC out of that deal, but if you come in and you say, all right, clubs at the top level that are making all kinds of money can go in and spend as much as they want, I think you're going to leave some clubs in the dust.
You can't use Chivas USA as an example, my friend. And the reason I'm saying that is because the whole concept of Chivas USA was wrong to begin with. Because they weren't trying to...
That being said, it was still a decision made by Major League Soccer to go forward with it. And it was still a club that folded.
now you agree that Major League Soccer will take a risk, but it doesn't necessarily mean that each risk will pay off. But this means that this is a risk that does need to happen.
You need to take a risk in a way that still is sustainable. And I'm not sure that a salary capless Major League Soccer is sustainable right now. Not because that clubs would be financially irresponsible. I'm just not sure that the clubs at the bottom of the table that are not performing well, do not have the attendance numbers and the financial backing behind them, would be able to keep up with the clubs that have all of this money and that would be spending all of this money.
And then we get into the conversation about pro regulation here in the United States.
That, I think, might have to be a conversation for another show.
Can I segue to another Superman thing?
Go for it.
The reason I'm wearing this shirt today.
Oh, he's been wanting to talk about this the entire episode. It's finally time.
All right. Give him the time.
It's Newcastle United. Well, I like the bloody shirt, but I like Newcastle Brown too. But There is a sacred shirt at Newcastle, and that is the number 9. And it has been that way for a century.
Yeah.
Jackie Milburn, Alan Shearer, Andy Cole. Andy Cole, he gets the ball, he scores a goal. You know,
Yeah,
that stuff.
I remember
There
when he
is
was
a
good.
new kid, see, say, Malcolm McDonald. I mean, these are...
You're just reading names.
No,
I'm
those are real
kidding.
players. Those
I
are real
know.
players.
Oh, that's the look of disgust. We've been on the same page for most of the show. I think I've just
Huey
I've sent
Gallagher.
him over the edge.
That's another name.
Huey Gallagher.
Who wore the number 9 shirt for Newcastle. Now there is a new man in town, Joe Linton, signed today. Actually, no, in the last 24 hours.
Can you
anyway.
tell me about this player?
No, that's the thing. But what I'm saying is, how about the whole show's been about great expectations. This kid is coming to Newcastle, and he wants the number 9 shirt, which is, I mean, really, this kid must be confident. They've signed him for a record $40 million. Steve Bruce, as we know, the most unpopular coach, as we mentioned.
Yeah,
On
for
the last
real.
episode,
Seriously.
if you missed that, go back and
I
listen
know.
to it.
Is he still the
So-
coach? Wow.
He's
Still
been there a week.
A week in. That's pretty good tenure.
But he signed this kid from Germany. I don't know much about him, but my word, I'm not kidding you. Talk about great expectations. If there's one thing that Newcastle expect. If you wear that number 9, you better be in the spirit of Andy Cole. You better be in the spirit of Alan Shearer and many, many others that have worn it.
Well, he's going to have a tough task ahead of them. It's just trying to keep Newcastle in the Premier League again this year.
He better be scoring 25.
Hey, the season starts like
30
in 2
goals.
weeks.
I know.
And that is something that's going to be pretty exciting to follow here as we move forward on
We got
the
many
throw-in.
bets to come. Maybe some people have to get like waxed on air. You know, maybe you might have to lose some chest hair this year.
You know, as a Greek person, I actually don't have that much of that, as much as you would expect. Not to leave anything to be desired there by any ladies watching the show.
My
Anyway.
brother Esau is a hairy man. I am a smooth man.
Oh, well, consider yourself fortunate.
Anyway, I don't know
That's
how
in
we
the
got
Bible.
there.
I don't know.
I don't know how we got to
because we
this
know there's going to be
conversation.
some bets during
Yeah,
the
there's gonna
Manchester
be some
Derby. There
bets.
always are. And we might have to have bets with you this year.
So I guess final thoughts going
Yes.
in for this episode, whether we're talking about Major League Soccer, Austin FC's new head coach, where do you guys land on this?
I'm excited that we have a head coach because that puts us ahead of other teams within the MLS expansion process. And I feel that will give us one step ahead to making sure that we have a winning club in year 1, if not year 2.
Okay, Jonathan.
I think that Austin FC, with this announcement today, have done another great step forward. I think it's always hard to start a new franchise. It's always, like you say, the expectations of a city like this are high. The MLS is getting stronger and stronger. I think he's the right choice, not because he's the greatest coach that ever lived, is because he's connected to the game in America. He's played at every level. He's also currently scouting all of CONCACAF, and I love that fact that he is right on the pulse.
Paid his dues.
And Justin, as one final retribution to your point about immediate success, I'm going to read you a quote. This is a direct quote taken from Josh Wolf right now as we are recording this episode. Josh Wolf, Anthony Precourt, and Andy Loughnane are at Buford's doing one of their live Q&As. This is a direct quote from that. Josh Wolf has been quoted in saying it is not about immediate success. It's about long-term success, and we will get there with you guys.
Josh, I wish you all the success that you have here in your first couple of seasons at the helm of our MLS club, Austin FC. But right now, that's in the off season. So when it does happen and when those players, those 11 versus the other 11 line up on the pitch, if the W's don't start coming before the L's, he might not say that so much more. Just saying.
And
As
we're-
a foreigner myself, welcome to Austin, Mr. Wolf.
And we're going to be here to talk about it not only through the entire postseason, as you called it, up until Austin FC coming about. We're going to be here talking about it on the throw.
Well, more importantly, we were covering it at the very beginning before there was even a talk of Austin FC, and we covered it since then, and we're going to continue to cover it way
Absolutely.
past that point.
We are the throw-in. This is Austin's original international soccer talk program. We have been broadcasting live thanks to our friends over at SHN Sports. We have been at Cover 3. They have a number of great specials that you can come out and enjoy. We want to thank them again for hosting us here. Again, the Cover 3, the downtown location.
But all of them are great.
Do not know where we are going to be next, but we beg you to follow us at The Throw-In ATX on Twitter and on Instagram. That's going to be where you're going to find out where we're going to be recording our next episode in our bar storming tour across Austin. We want to thank you for listening. Thanks again to Rob over at SHN for coming out all the way down to downtown Austin and being our producer and getting this show on the air live on YouTube for you guys. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for SHN Sports. That's how you get notified. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on the audio-only version on iTunes, on Spotify, Google, whatever your podcast app is on Google. I'm sorry, I'm an Apple person myself.
Oh, I just have to mention real quick, since we are here at Cover 3 downtown, you can visit all the other Cover 3 and the Cover 2 locations as well. But I know a big thing for you all non-soccer fans is the NFL Fantasy Draft is coming up.
Yes.
Reserve your spot here. They have great food, obviously tons of space because they allow us to
Ask
film
for
our video
Michaela,
here.
the host.
Yes,
Wonderful
terrific
lady.
job. Everybody does a great job. But if you're looking to secure your spot, because I know we'll be playing some Premier League fantasy probably with Wags here in the moment.
Hopefully.
You've
Maybe
been playing Premier Fantasy all
All show long.
Hey, if I had no budget, I just buy whoever I want.
Hey, you're a
right?
Man City
There you
fan. You
go.
must be
That's
in
how it
fantasy.
works.
Oh.
I remember the hard times, man. The hard times.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. This has been the Throw-In ATX, Austin's original international soccer talk program. We're going to see you guys a week from now, around then. So stay tuned again at the Throw-In ATX for more details on that. Until then,
Bring on the season!
Almost
enjoy the soccer, Austin, Texas. Thanks for watching and listening.